All right, next we got the scorer stat keepers.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're gonna make this. Well, I would say short and sweet, but some of these rules are a little longer. But
Yeah.
let's run them down. Rule number one: the scorers keep a running tally of the points scored while recording field goals made, free throws made and missed. Each player's personal and technical fouls must be recorded. And when a player receives their sixth personal foul, they must immediately tell the officials. They must keep track of the timeouts charged to each team. Tell each team's coach via an official once that team receives its final timeout, and alert the closest official whenever a team receives a timeout charge that exceeds the permitted number. If there's any doubt over a scoring error, the scorer must immediately consult with the crew chief to determine the cause. Unless he has knowledge that compels him to do otherwise, the official must accept the official scorer's record if the error cannot be identified. So say, um, let's say they they shoot the ball and the score records that instead of it being a score for 2 points, it was really a offensive interference type of deal. They have to let the officials know that that offensive interference happened. So and then they have to revert back those 2 points that they
Yeah.
recorded. So
Yeah.
really the score, I would say, Chuck, that the scores table is probably going to be the toughest job. So we're going to need
Yeah.
the more technical people over there on the scores table,
Yeah.
so to track what's going on. And even with rule number one, the officials can help out too, especially if we have a number of officials. And if
Mm-hmm.
it's in a timeout state, we could actually have it to where if we had to stop the game to rectify scores, we could do it. Well,
Yeah.
I'd say maybe 2 minutes. I'd say max to
Yeah.
cover any error that could have been found. But we don't want to hold off the game
Yeah.
too much for that type of thing. But we do want to make sure that these stats are correct and that
Yeah.
what we're doing is correct.
Yeah. And with that being said, with the officials and the scorer and stat keepers, we plan on having more than one
Mhm.
per game. So like all of that responsibility won't be on you being one,
Yeah.
referee or one score or stat keeper. We gonna try to have maybe three stat keepers and maybe two referees just to keep things flowing smoothly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it might seem like a lot, but you will be part of a team, so makes it
Definitely.
easier.
Definitely. So that covers rule number one. Rule number two: the scorers are responsible for recording the players' names, numbers, and positions, as well as any substitutes who enter the game. If there's a
Hmm.
violation of the rules governing the active list of submissions, substitutions, or player count, the nearest official must be notified right away if the ball is dead or as soon as it becomes dead, if it is in play at the time of the violation is identified. So, say something's wrong. Uh if there's something wrong at the scorers table, you have to let the officials know as soon as you find out on the dead ball. You don't want to do it during the play, but as soon
Yeah.
as you find out on the dead ball, you let the officials know so they can give you that 2 minutes or so that we just mentioned to see what's going on real quick, um,
Yeah.
and to correct it fast and keep the game going. So pretty much, the scorers and the refs are responsible for keeping the game going smoothly. That's y'all
Yeah.
main role on that. And
Yeah.
these are big rules for the scores table. Just keeping track is what these two rules are for. Keeping
Yeah.
everything on track and what happened, what you need to do if it's not on track. Um, but you only can do it on a dead ball. You don't want to do
Yeah.
it in the middle of a play because that'll make things even worse because you'll have other things to have to track. In order to make it
Yeah.
simple to determine the order in which the players are eligible to return to the game, the scorer must indicate the moment at which players are disqualified due to accumulating the 6 personal fouls. So the second that player gets 6 fouls, either the referee can trigger it or the scorers table. Primarily, it'll be the scorers table because they know how many you have.
Yeah.
Because they're tracking it. So they have to let those refs know the second you hit 6 fouls to get you out of there and get you replaced.
Yes.
So those two are deep.
Let me expand on it real quick. So so in a situation like that, like let's say a player commits his 6th foul. So the referee and the scorers have to have constant communication. So being a scorer, you wouldn't like get up and run on the court and say it's 6 fouls. After a player commits the foul, the referee will look to you. You would just hold up 6 fingers. That's it. It's simple. And the referee know, all right, that's 6 fouls. You are out. So if you have 2 fouls, the referee looks to the scorer's table. 2, all right, 2 fouls. So so on and so forth. So I don't want the scorers to think that they have to be moving a million miles a minute. It's like once you actually do the job, it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple.
Yep. So yeah, like we
Back
was,
to you, Dave.
Go ahead. You good.
Another issue might be if a player, let's say, shoots a 3 and the referee turn around, hold up 3 fingers and run down court. If the scorer missed that hand signal, he won't know to put down a 2 or a 3. So during the next time out, the scorer gets with the referee and say, hey, did so-and-so make a 2 or a 3 on that possession? The referee is like, he made a 3. So the scorer, get the stats right. So it seems like a lot, but it's really not.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not.
Yeah. And so the scorers and the refs are going to be a real tight team, tight knit together as far as keeping the game organized, keeping the game in order. But yeah, those cover those first 2 rules. They're going to be deep, but it's pretty much going hand in hand with the officials. So rule number 3, while the ball is in play, the scorer is not allowed to warn the officials unless an error needs to be corrected.
Yeah, we just covered that.
We just covered that. So you don't want to distract the officials in the middle of a play. You want to wait until it's a dead ball. And even if it's in this case, we may have to change this one up a little bit, Chuck, because even if an error needs to be corrected, they may have to wait for the dead ball in order to do that. Because if they stop the officials while just because of that, they're gonna it'll stop the flow of the play. So we'll amend that right here live. So while the ball is in play, the scorer is not allowed to warn the officials about anything. Rule number 4, scorers must enter the amount of team fouls up to a maximum of 5 on the scoreboard, which designates a penalty scenario for the team. So once you get to 5, you're going to be in penalty as far as fouls. They'll be able to shoot free throws, same as the NBA type deal. So once the scorers have those logged, they will let the refs know that it is a penalty situation. Other team will be able to shoot free throws on every foul till they get out of it. All right, so that covers it for the stat keepers.
Yes, sir.
We have one more, really. Well, one more. Well, two more technically. The interviewer, and also the timing. But this is general rules. The timing is general rules.
Yeah.
So let's start with the interviewer's duties. Rule number 1 for interviewer duties: the interviewer must arrive to the gym at least 1 hour prior to the start of each game. So the same as the coaches and the players, they have to be there an hour prior. Rule number 2: interviewers must interview players or coaches before, during, and after each game. Now, what we mean by that is it's a requirement. You have to do an interview before, and what we mean by during is like we get to halftime or we get to the break. or we get to like a long timeout, they can do it. And after the game is one of the most important times to do an interview. That has to be done. All of them have to be done, but definitely after the game has to be done. The result of what happened and the players being able to explain what happened, how they won or lost, how they feel about the game, how they feel about their performance and their team's performance, things like that. That goes back to our channel as a whole here at Legendary Basketball Association, as well as being able to provide content to all our fans as far as what's going on with the players, the league, and everything else. So this is very important. Rule number 2 is one of the most important for the interviewer. You have to do these things. So if you're going to be an interviewer, you have to do this. Very important. Rule number 3, it is the interviewer's responsibility to make sure that their designated camera and microphone are working properly prior to each interview. So you want to test that stuff out, just like we test our stuff out here, Chuck, prior to the podcast. They have to, you guys have to make sure that your cameras and mic are working properly. We do understand that sometimes things happen, but testing it out will be a good help to making sure that these things run smoothly. So make sure you run a test prior to doing any interview to make sure these things are actually recording, actually running video and things like that. Rule number 4, dress code is always casual. It's a little different with the interviewer. You can be formal if you like. You can be casual if you like. You just have to be balanced with it. We don't want to have anything too crazy, too provocative. Things like that. You want to be balanced in your dress. All right. Rule number 5, no profanity is allowed during interviews. No profanity is allowed during interviews. And the reason for that, like we said, it's going to be primarily on our channel, all the interviews and the games, and we want kids to be able to take in this content without it having to be rated R, so to speak, because of language. So we want to make sure that we keep our speech clean with the interviews, particularly. Now, granted, we do understand that words come out, but with this, there are consequences to that if you do that too much during the interviews. You will probably be getting a call from either me or Chuck as far as, the interviews, and letting you know, like, hey, we can't do that, and what can happen if it continues. But that's all we got on the interviewer duties. It's real easy, just real simple. You just go in, do your thing. Get your interview in, send it to us, and we send it back out through the channel where everybody can see it. And to the interviewers as well, if you have your own channel, we will also allow you to post it to your channel if you're the interviewer. You have to be the interviewer to do it. Or the players as well. The players can do it as well. So you got our blessing on that. Depending on what happens, though, that may be subject to change if we see something crazy going on with these interviews. But other than that, I think it'll be fine. We can move on from there. That's the interviewer duties. Real easy, clear cut.